Today I'm talking with Senator Wyden about the ADA. I'm Corey Coloma. I live in Eugene, Oregon. I work at the USAID, and I'm an autistic self-advocate. It's great to meet you today, Senator.
You as well, Corey. And this is Ron Wyden. I'm at my dining room table in Southeast Portland, and I so appreciate the chance to highlight a few of the issues surrounding the ADA.
What is the Americans with Disabilities Act, and why is it important? And what types of protections does it provide to people with disabilities?
In 1990 was the first major piece of civil rights legislation in history for those with disabilities, the official title of which is the Americans with Disabilities Act. And it basically locked in to black letter law protections from discrimination under federal statute. And it established in particular critical accessibility requirements for workplaces and also for public spaces. And it's an extraordinarily important statute, but it is also a very profound message that there is a great deal more to do in America to promote equity for our friends and our neighbors, those with disabilities. For example, I feel very strongly about making sure more is done to increase access to voting, the sacred franchise. That is why, along with Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, a great advocate for the disabled, a member of the Finance Committee, where I'm the ranking Democrat, we introduced the Accessible Voting Act of 2020. And what this does is, in a nutshell, it would ensure resources to make sure that those with disabilities and older Americans would be able to vote. That's the bottom line. We're going to need some additional dollars to do this, and this is an urgently needed piece of legislation so that those with disabilities and older Americans can exercise their right to vote. And one other aspect of our job is I've asked the Government Accountability Office to go out and assess what the states and the localities are doing to ensure that voting is equally accessible to all Americans, specifically those with disabilities.
Thank you for your insight, Senator. And on to our next question. How would the Natural Disaster and Emergency Ballot Act affect people with disabilities?
I have heard on a number of occasions from disability rights advocates and others who are concerned about voters hand marking a ballot, as we do in Oregon, and that these are individuals who would prefer that every voter mark their paper ballot with a touchscreen ballot marking device. That is, in effect, what is being discussed, whether this kind of hand-marked paper ballot issue should be the primary way to go, and what kinds of opportunities should there be for voters to mark their paper ballot with a touchscreen ballot marking device. And I think, Corey, the way I kind of sum up my assessment of it is I very much understand the concerns of voters with disabilities, how strongly they feel voting in a different way than voters without disabilities. I think as we look at this issue, we need to make sure that we factor in the judgment of cybersecurity experts who've made it clear that the method of voting most resistant to hacking is the hand-marked paper ballot. So because of the cybersecurity risks, I have real questions about just mandating the use of ballot marking devices by voters without disabilities. What I do want to do is address a host of concerns that have been raised by those in the disability community, because I believe that security and accessibility are not mutually exclusive. I think smart policies can give you more of both, and not so smart policies give you less of both.
Our next question is, what would you like to see in the next 30 years regarding policy to support Americans with disabilities, and how can disability advocates work with policymakers to continue to advance health and quality of life for all people?
Well, at the top of my priority list, Corey, and I'm the senior Democrat in the Finance Committee, which has jurisdiction over Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, is, of course, expanding opportunities for individuals with disabilities to get the full range of healthcare services that they have determined they need. And obviously, COVID-19 has just brought into focus the importance of this challenge, as has the Trump administration's efforts to slash health care coverage through their repeated attacks on the Affordable Care Act and on Medicaid. So I think I'll close this up by saying that I know that you, Corey, and other advocates will be out there working with me and others to expand opportunities for those with disabilities to get access to quality, affordable healthcare. I believe that healthcare should be a basic human right in America, and that should include mental health care. And I look forward to working with you and friends across this great state to advocate for those with disabilities for the next 30 years, and policies that promote a strong future for all those with disabilities in our state.